Hi, thank you for joining us today. I'm Micah Clark with the American Family Association. As you know, the legislature starts next week, and we are very busy right now looking through bills that are being posted online. You know, when a bill is filed in the legislature, it goes through a process behind the scenes through an agency called the Legislative Services Agency, which is the legal staff for legislators where they draft bills and bill ideas. So I hear about bills legislators tell me about, and so there's bills I'm expecting to see, but they have to go through this process. And we're just now starting to see a lot of bills appear on the Indiana General Assembly website where I and all the lobbyists and activists and citizens can look up legislation. And there's about 200 bills that have been filed so far as of today, and they've appeared on the website, but we're expecting about 1,400 bills to be filed this session. So a very, very busy time for us right now at AFA of Indiana. And I wanted to give you a picture of a few of the bills. I mentioned last week, or maybe before Christmas, I put an email out with 3 or 4 bills in it to kind of give you an idea. I wanted to cover a couple different ones that we've seen. These are not necessarily our priority bills. They just come out, you know, in order, and we look at them and say, oh, I think that's worth watching, and I print that out or keep an eye on that bill. And I wanted to share a few of those with you, just to kind of give you an idea of subject matter that we cover, things that catch my attention, that I keep an eye on at the General Assembly. Not all these bills will move. Obviously, out of 1,400 bills that are filed, only about 200, 250 will make it to the governor's desk for their signature and go into law. And we can debate whether or not we even need 250 new laws. But our founders made a process to where it's very difficult to pass a bill. I think that's a good thing. Obviously, that frustrates me sometimes because I think there's bills that fly through with common sense. But it takes a lot of process. And in fact, I'll just briefly tell you, a bill must pass 3 steps in each chamber. And if it doesn't pass those 3 steps, it dies. The first step is the committee hearing process. The second step is the amendment process on the floor. And the third step is the final vote. And then it switches chambers and goes through those same 3 steps in the opposite chamber. But a couple of bills I want to mention, these are what they look like. If you print one out, you'll see this is the digest or the synopsis page. I wanted to mention a few bills. A bill that caught my attention this morning, because I've not seen a bill like this before. I don't think this will go anywhere because it's introduced by a Democrat in the House, and most of the Democrat bills don't move because they're a minority. But this caught my attention as kind of a red flag. It concerns the licensure of sonographers or ultrasounds. So obviously that caught my attention because I wondered, is this an attempt to undermine crisis pregnancy centers, pregnancy care centers, many of which have ultrasound machines? And so it requires anyone doing an assessment or an ultrasound diagnosis to be licensed by the Indiana Department of Health. Now, I've talked to several crisis pregnancy center directors, and they said this bill probably wouldn't affect us because our people are licensed already. And this is a bit of maybe an old school approach with technology now. I just heard a story that was very interesting, had no idea, but we're getting to the point technologically where you can buy these for home use, plug them into your computer. Maybe if a woman has a couple has a difficult pregnancy, they might want one of these. But it caught my attention because I want to make sure that we have freedoms to inform women to make choices and to know from life care centers about the options they have, alternatives to abortion. But we're watching that bill. It's House Bill 1094. Now, all House bills start off at 1,000. All Senate bills start off at 0. So if you see a bill that's number 26, that would be a Senate bill. The 26th bill in the House filed would be 1026 or 1026 because the Senate doesn't offer or doesn't file 1,000 bills. So they stagger them for that way. So if I mention a bill number in the thousands, 1,200s, 1,300s, that's a House bill. Senate bill are going to be under 1,000. But House Bill 1094 is called Licensure of Sonographers. I've already talked to some legislators about this, and we're keeping an eye on that bill. Another bill that caught my attention, very interesting bill. I hope this gets a hearing. I want to see how this bill is debated, who opposes this bill, who sticks their head up and says, we don't like this bill. And Senator, I apologize, I think it's pronounced Dernulk. He's new, it's Dernulc. Really appreciate him filing this bill. He's a newer legislator, and this is a solid bill. Senate Bill 91 on sexual grooming of children. It makes the grooming of a child, this crime, a person commits a sexual grooming crime, Class A misdemeanor, if the person with the intent to prepare or condition the child for future sexual activity. And we see that happening in our culture. It also has a higher felony penalty if it involves communication with a child or sexual grooming with a computer, several other offenses and crimes in here. But this is a sexual grooming bill, and I don't have didn't print out all the pages of the bill. I'll look at that closer. But that caught my attention this morning. That's Senate Bill 91 on the sexual grooming of children. That's going to be very interesting if that bill sees action, to watch the testimony on that bill and see who supports it and who opposes it. I don't know why people would oppose it, but there's always reasons that you haven't thought of that come up. Always surprise me, the arguments and the logic some people use, but I like that bill from what I've seen. Senate Bill 91, you can look that up on the website and let your legislator know, your senator, how you feel about that bill if that's something you want to support. Another bill, he's filed the same bill, Senator Dernulc, Senate Bill 92. The other bill was Senate Bill 1. This one's also on sexual offenses. A very interesting bill. This bill prohibits plea agreements or reducing sentences for certain sexual crimes, particularly child sexual trafficking. It would basically say that a prosecutor cannot plead down that charge to a minor charge. It makes it a very serious crime. For the promotion of sexual trafficking of a young child, child sex trafficking, and child solicitation. So it kind of basically makes this a high-level crime that prosecutors can't dismiss. Obviously, the prosecutor has to convict a person, but it really makes this a very serious crime. And unfortunately, human trafficking is a bigger problem now, especially of children across the border, illegals, things like that. And the way our culture is, the sex trafficking of children is a very serious crime. You know, for years, when I first started, we didn't see bills on crimes against children, sexual crimes against children very often. And then now every session there's a bill about it because it's such a problem. It's such a horrible crime too. So you might want to look at that bill, Senate Bill 92, and I'll probably talk about some of these in my email next week. The last bill, and I mentioned a bill like this in the House in an email 2 weeks ago, I think it was a Friday. I listed several bills, and one of the bills was on advertising marijuana, keeping that away from schools and child care centers and things like that, youth centers. Well, this bill goes a step farther. This is by Senator Deary, Spencer Deary, Senate Bill 166. His bill says that it's illegal to advertise marijuana, period, anywhere in Indiana, which I like. It's not legal in the state. It says that a person may not advertise a product containing marijuana or marijuana business by any medium within the borders of Indiana. So he's going right for the throat on this one, and that's Senate Bill 166. It'll be interesting to see if that sees any action and what the attitude of the legislature is on that issue. So those are 4 bills I mentioned that may have interest you, but you can look at the Indiana General Assembly website at iga.in.gov. Very good website for learning how a bill becomes a law, who your legislator is. You enter your address. You can contact your legislator. You can look at the bills just as I do and all the lobbyists do. You can track bills and see as they're going through the process when hearings occur. And so I'd encourage you to take a look at that. But if you want to contact your legislator about any of those 4 bills I mentioned, just look below. We'll have that link down there. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Very busy time for us. Going to be looking through hundreds of bills, flagging many of them and seeing which ones see action. You can pray for me as I testify after 33 years. Still something that intimidates me. And so appreciate your prayers for my courage and my wisdom as I defend family values down there, and hopefully be your eyes and ears for your family on issues that affect our culture. Appreciate your support. We've had a good year end. I appreciate those who donated to us. It means a lot to us. We're still going through the numbers, but we expect to start off the year from a position of strength where we can fight for your values at the Indiana General Assembly. I'm Micah Clark. Appreciate you joining us for the American Family Association of Indiana. Have a wonderful weekend.